Welcome to the Glitch Archives. Tonight, we delve into a digital mirage, a chilling proposition that lured thousands into the darkest corners of their desires. It began not with a whisper, but with a polished, professional website hidden deep within the dark web. Its name, Besa Mafia. It promised the unthinkable, contract killings, discreetly executed with an ironclad guarantee of anonymity and success. A digital hitman service accepting payment in the untraceable currency of Bitcoin. But as we've learned, the dark web is a labyrinth of shadows, and not all monsters are as real as they appear.
The site itself was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Gone were the crude, hastily built pages often associated with illicit online dealings. Besa Mafia presented a facade of cold, corporate efficiency. Testimonials, an FAQ section, even a customer support option were all meticulously crafted to project an aura of legitimacy. It detailed a complex network of operatives spread across the globe, ready to fulfill any request, from targeted assaults to permanent disappearances. The barrier to entry was simply a Bitcoin wallet and a willingness to cross an unforgivable line.
The payment structure was equally insidious. Customers were instructed to deposit Bitcoin into an escrow account, only to be released once the job was confirmed complete. This mechanism, commonplace in legitimate online transactions, was twisted into a perverse assurance of service on Besa Mafia. It fostered a false sense of security, convincing desperate individuals that their investment in violence was protected. The sheer audacity of the operation, its meticulous design, hinted at a sophisticated mind behind the curtain, exploiting the darkest impulses of its clientele. Who were these clients? The motivations varied, but the common thread was a descent into desperation or depravity. Individuals seeking revenge, escaping perceived threats, or simply indulging in fantasies of ultimate power. Besa Mafia preyed on these vulnerabilities, offering a seemingly accessible solution to problems that existed both in the real world and within disturbed psyches. The existence of such a service, even a fraudulent one, reflected a chilling reality. There were people willing to pay for murder, believing they could do so with impunity, shielded by layers of digital anonymity. Yet, even in the murky depths of the dark web, skepticism began to fester. Users on various forums and illicit communities questioned the site's legitimacy. Reports of jobs never being completed, of money vanishing into the digital ether, started to surface. But Besa Mafia was always ready with an excuse: a compromised operative, a change in plans, an unexpected complication requiring further payment. These explanations, initially plausible in the context of clandestine operations, slowly started to wear thin. The cracks in the facade were widening, but the full scope of the deception remained hidden.
The myth of the Red Room, a dark website where live torture or murder could be witnessed, had long captivated the internet's morbid curiosity. Besa Mafia, in its own twisted way, capitalized on this urban legend, offering a service that promised to bring the fantasy of outsourced violence into reality. It was a macabre business model, built on the assumption that fear and anonymity would prevent scrutiny. But the digital realm has its own vigilantes, its own forces pushing back against unchecked darkness, and one such force was about to expose the truth.
The elaborate illusion was shattered not by law enforcement, nor by a disgruntled customer, but by an anonymous hacker. a digital ghost operating under the moniker DEFCON. This entity bypassed Besa Mafia's supposed security, penetrated its servers, and downloaded its entire database. The payload was immense: gigabytes of internal communications, financial records, and, most damningly, a comprehensive list of all of Besa Mafia's clients. The names, the targets, the payments, everything was now out in the open. The world was about to see who truly sought to hire a killer. The leak by DEFCON wasn't just a data dump, it was a digital earthquake. Thousands of individuals who believed their darkest intentions were veiled by anonymity were now exposed. The database contained their usernames, their Bitcoin transaction IDs, and in some cases, terrifyingly specific details about the targets they had commissioned. It was a roster of would-be murderers and their intended victims, a stark and horrifying testament to the capacity for human malice when emboldened by perceived impunity. The raw data laid bare the full extent of Besa Mafia's customer base.
The immediate aftermath was chaotic. The dumped database quickly proliferated across various dark web forums and even leaked onto the ClearNet. Journalists, researchers, and law enforcement agencies began sifting through the mountains of data. The names on the list spanned continents and demographics, revealing a global network of individuals seeking to solve their problems with violence. The sheer volume of contracts was staggering, a grim reflection of the site's apparent success in attracting clientele, regardless of its true operational capability.
But as investigators delved deeper into the leaked records, a crucial, unsettling pattern emerged. There were no confirmed killings, no reported disappearances that could be definitively linked to Besa Mafia's services. Despite thousands of alleged contracts and millions in Bitcoin payments, the real-world impact of their hitmen was conspicuously absent. This discrepancy began to unravel the entire premise of Besa Mafia, leading to a chilling realization about the true nature of the operation itself. The victims were not the targets, but the clients.
Besa Mafia was not a legitimate contract killing service. It was a meticulously crafted scam, a digital honeypot designed to extract Bitcoin from individuals willing to pay for murder. No hitmen existed. No assignments were ever carried out. The operatives were figments of a clever con artist's imagination, and the testimonials were fabricated. The thousands of customers who believed they had commissioned a killing had simply wired their money directly into the pockets of a dark web fraudster. They had been duped, their heinous intent exploited for profit. The internal communications from the leak painted a surreal picture of the scam's operation. Customer support emails revealed angry clients demanding updates on their contracts, threatening to expose Besa Mafia if their jobs weren't completed. The administrators, in turn, responded with carefully worded assurances, stalling tactics, and often demands for more money to cover unforeseen expenses or bribes to ensure success. It was a perverse parody of legitimate business, with human lives and dark desires as its currency. The administrators of Besa Mafia, far from being ruthless assassins, were calculating opportunists. They understood the psychology of their clientele, individuals who, by seeking such a service, had already alienated themselves from traditional legal recourse. These customers were trapped. They couldn't report the scam to authorities without incriminating themselves. This unique vulnerability became the bedrock of Besa Mafia's success, allowing the fraudsters to operate with relative impunity, knowing their victims were largely powerless to seek justice. But the scam took an even darker turn. Beyond merely defrauding users of their Bitcoin, the operators of Besa Mafia allegedly engaged in active blackmail. Once a client had placed an order and revealed their nefarious intentions, the site owner possessed powerful leverage. Emails surfaced suggesting that if a client grew too persistent in demanding their service or became suspicious of the scam, they would receive threats. The warning was clear. Their intent to hire a killer, along with all their provided details, would be exposed to their target or to law enforcement unless further payments were made. The perpetrators of the fraud were now extorting their own victims.
The blackmail operation was sophisticated in its cruelty. Clients who had placed orders for as little as 200 euros and as much as 10,000 euros found themselves trapped. The Besa Mafia operators, now armed with their targets' identities and the damning evidence of their intent, would send increasingly threatening messages. They would demand additional protection fees or non-disclosure payments to keep the client's information private. The alternative was a direct warning to the intended victim or a report to local law enforcement, effectively turning the tables on the would-be perpetrators.
The psychological toll on these victims, now blackmailed themselves, must have been immense. They lived under the constant threat of exposure, facing the potential ruin of their lives, careers, and reputations, not for a crime committed, but for a crime merely contemplated. The very anonymity they sought on the dark web had become their ultimate vulnerability. They were trapped between a rock and a hard place. Admit their guilt to authorities to report the blackmail, or continue paying into a bottomless pit of extortion, hoping the threat would eventually subside.
This twisted dynamic highlighted a profound ethical and legal dilemma. Could someone be considered a victim when their initial intent was to cause harm? While the act of hiring a hitman is unequivocally criminal, the subsequent blackmail by a scam artist placed these individuals in an unprecedented position. Law enforcement agencies were faced with the challenge of prosecuting individuals who had clearly demonstrated criminal intent, even if the crime they attempted to commission was a fabrication. The Besa Mafia database provided undeniable proof of their dark desires.
The alleged mastermind behind Besa Mafia was eventually identified by various security researchers and journalists as an individual with possible connections to Albania or Eastern Europe, sometimes going by aliases like Skyline, Jura, or Jura. This individual was not a hardened criminal mastermind orchestrating real-world assassinations. Instead, he was a calculated entrepreneur of deception, exploiting humanity's darker impulses for personal gain, far removed from the romanticized image of a dark web kingpin. His true motivation was simple, insidious greed. The Besa Mafia saga served as a stark lesson. The dark web is not always the realm of hyper-competent criminals depicted in fiction. Often, it's a hunting ground for opportunists and con artists, preying on those who venture into its depths with illicit intentions. The promise of untraceable, anonymous transactions and services often masks elaborate schemes designed to exploit the very desires they claim to fulfill. The illusion of a red room or a hitman service is a powerful lure, but the reality is frequently far more mundane and cynical.
The red room myth persists in internet folklore, painting a picture of live, unspeakable horrors hidden on the deepest layers of the web. Besa Mafia, while not a red room in the traditional sense, tapped into that same primal fear and morbid curiosity. It offered a transactional pathway to what many believed was only a horror story. But instead of gruesome spectacle, it delivered a cold, hard truth. The most common currency on the dark web isn't always rare and horrific content. Sometimes it's just human desperation, exploited for simple monetary gain.
The collapse of Besa Mafia and the subsequent exposure of its fraudulent nature and blackmail tactics sent ripples throughout the dark web. It forced a re-evaluation of the supposed services offered in its hidden corners. While the myth of the Red Room continues to be whispered, the reality of Besa Mafia unveiled a far more common and pervasive truth. The dark web is frequently a stage for grifters, confidence tricksters, and extortionists waiting to capitalize on the moral failings of others. The story of Besa Mafia is not just a tale of a scam. It's a cautionary warning about the dangers of seeking forbidden solutions and how even the most nefarious intentions can become their own undoing. We conclude our investigation into Besa Mafia in the next segment, examining its lasting impact and the ultimate fate of its victims and alleged perpetrator.
The public revelation of Besa Mafia's database sent shockwaves. While the identities of the clients were initially withheld by many who obtained the data, the sheer fact of their exposure created a chilling deterrent. Some individuals on the list were eventually identified and faced legal scrutiny for their intentions, even if the service they paid for was a sham. The act of attempting to solicit murder, regardless of its execution, remains a serious crime. The Besa Mafia scam forced a grim reckoning for all involved.
For law enforcement, the Besa Mafia database presented a unique challenge. While it offered a treasure trove of evidence of criminal intent, prosecuting individuals for a crime that was never actually committed by a third party was complex. Some jurisdictions focused on the solicitation aspect, using the data to investigate and charge individuals. Others found their hands tied, lacking direct evidence of a completed crime, but still possessing undeniable proof of malevolent intent. It highlighted the evolving nature of cybercrime and its intersection with traditional legal frameworks.
The fate of the alleged Besa Mafia mastermind remains largely shrouded in the digital mist. While various researchers pointed to the aliases Skyline or Yura, conclusive identification and successful prosecution have been elusive. The decentralized nature of the dark web, coupled with the international scope of the scam, made pinpointing and apprehending the individuals responsible incredibly difficult. They likely faded back into the digital shadows, their ill-gotten gains secured, leaving behind a trail of ruined lives and broken trust.
Besa Mafia stands as a powerful testament to the allure and deception inherent in the dark web. It capitalized on the myth of absolute anonymity and untraceable transactions, a myth that often leads individuals down perilous paths. The internet's hidden layers can indeed facilitate genuine illicit activities, but they are also ripe with scams designed to exploit those who seek them out. The line between true horror and cynical fraud on the dark web is often thin, easily blurred by the promise of forbidden services. The story of Besa Mafia forced a critical examination of the Red Room phenomenon. While the sensational tales of live, interactive torture remained largely unsubstantiated urban legends, Besa Mafia demonstrated that the desire for such extreme services or similar illicit acts was undeniably real. What was fictionalized in creepypastas and forums became a tangible, albeit fraudulent, offering. The horror wasn't in witnessing the act, but in the realization of how many people were willing to pay for it.
Ultimately, the Besa Mafia case boils down to a profound irony.
Those who sought to hire killers, believing they were engaging in the ultimate act of control and vengeance, found themselves utterly powerless. They were not only defrauded of their money, but also entrapped by their own dark intentions, subjected to the very blackmail they believed they were avoiding. Their anonymity, the shield they thought the dark web provided, was turned into a weapon against them.
The true crime of Besa Mafia wasn't the murders that never happened, but the audacious exploitation of human malevolence. It exposed the raw nerve of desire for illicit power, a desire so strong that it blinded thousands to obvious red flags. The perpetrators understood this perfectly, crafting a scam that didn't just steal money, but also psychologically tormented those who harbored the darkest thoughts. It was a masterclass in exploiting the morally compromised. The Glitch Archives will continue to delve into the obscure corners of the internet, unearthing stories that challenge our perceptions of digital reality. Besa Mafia serves as a chilling reminder. The dark web is less a playground for assassins and more a marketplace for grifters, where the real danger often lies not in what you might find, but in what you're willing to seek. The true horror isn't always supernatural. Sometimes it's just plain human greed, amplified by technology. The case of Besa Mafia ultimately peels back the layers of sensationalism surrounding the dark web, revealing a more pragmatic, yet equally disturbing truth. It's a world where intentions, however dark, are currency, and anonymity is a double-edged sword. While the Red Room remains a myth, the reality of digital deception and human depravity is very much alive. Thank you for joining us on this investigation. To access more untold stories from the digital depths, subscribe to the Glitch Archives. Your journey into the unknown continues.